It's mid-October, fall's here, and it's time to start thinking about firewood for this winter. Of course, with harvesting firewood, you need to be able to cut down a tree. Unless you're going to do it with an axe, you're going to need a chainsaw. So with chainsaws, one of the most important parts that you guys have is obviously the chain. So how exactly do you tension that chain, and what should the proper tension be? Let me show you. When I tension a chain, I do not want to see any slop or slack on the bottom of the chain there. So I should be able to pull up here in the middle of the bar, and the drive link teeth should almost be coming out, but they're still snug. When I release, it's nice and tight on both sides. So that is what we're looking for. Let me show you how I got to this. Stihl chainsaws, as well as a lot of other brands, are going to have an onboard clutch, meaning that the clutch is inside underneath the sprocket. So when the sprocket is rotating, that is because the clutch underneath is grabbing it and turning it around. So top handle saws on the Stihl side have an outboard clutch, and this is a Husqvarna saw right here. All of their chainsaws are going to have an outboard clutch. So the first thing you're going to see is the clutch, then the sprocket. So completely opposite design of what the Stihl saws and a lot of the other brands have. When you have an outboard clutch, just like this chainsaw, you're going to have to put your chain around the sprocket first before you mount it onto the bar. Now, if you did it the other way, you're not going to have enough drive links to get your chain around there after it's already on your bar tip. When you have an inboard clutch, you can mount your chain on your bar and then put it around the sprocket. Let me show you. On an inboard sprocket, I'm going to mount the chain to the bar first, setting it on there just like this. So once I get it all the way on there, I'm going to go ahead and put it around the sprocket. And then you're going to set it in there, and you're going to be on your chain tensioner right here. So wherever your chain tensioner is, that's going to be where you have to line these holes up with. So sometimes, depending if you're putting new products on here, if you put a new bar and chain, you might have to move your chain tensioner so it fits in the holes. That chain tensioner right here is where you turn to rotate this and move it back and forth. So as you rotate here, it's going to move it back, and you rotate it forward, it's going to move it forward. So that's what gives you the tension on your chain. So once I get that mounted on there, the next thing I'm going to do is put the clutch cover on. I'm going to take the bar nut, put the bar nut on there, and then just hand tighten it on there. Now I'm going to put the chainsaw down like this. I'm going to take my scrunch, make sure the brake's off, rotate it through. That's what it should sound like. So what I'm going to be looking for here, any slack on the bottom, slack on the top. I don't pull up on my bars like that. Some people say to do it. I think it's stupid. You don't need to do that. You need to have everything balanced and leveled out here. So just like I showed you there, once you know everything is tight and rotating the way you want it, then go ahead and tighten the bar nut down. The reason I push through the chain and rotate it like this is sometimes if you do not have the drive links lined up with the sprocket, it can create a little bit of slop. So when you do this, it's going to pull that slop out, and you're going to know if you need to tighten this down before you tighten the bar nut. So right here, everything is tight. Got the bar nut tight on there. So that is the perfect tension that I want on there, where those drive link teeth are about ready to come out, but not all the way. So once I start running this saw, you might have to do some retightening, but this is where I want my initial settings for my chain. Another thing you have to watch out for with these washers is people end up mounting the drive link between the washer and the sprocket. If you do this, you're going to have a problem when you go to rotate your chain. It's going to be bound up, and it's going to act like it won't spin at all. So make sure that you have it seated all the way on the sprocket, and it does not look like this. So now I'm going to show you what it looks like if I don't put everything in there and have it pre-tensioned down. I'm going to set this on there. So some people try to do this, and if you don't rotate it around, they'll just do this. Get it tight on there like that. Notice how the bottom there, those teeth are not sitting in the rail there, so that's going to lead to tensioning problem. They're going to tighten this down, and they're going to go to start running their saw. When you start running your saw, since we don't have this sitting in there properly, it's either going to be stuck like this, or when it starts going like that and it finally gets aligned, now look how much slop we have. So there's slop on both sides. So you should not have any slop on the bottom there. That is why I run it through with the scrunch before we tighten everything down to get rid of that slop. So take the bar nut back off so it's loose. Retighten that chain. So if you look at the bar tip, see if I can hold it still here. See how it moves up and down? If you have too much tension on it, it's going to pull that tip high in the air. And then when you go to rotate it, it will barely move or it won't move at all. So you do not want that tip lifted up. That's why when people show you videos of how they tighten a chain, they're sitting there lifting up on it. That is not the right way to do that. You want everything nice and level with gravity, pushing it through. We got a little slop. We'll just go ahead and tighten it, push it through again. Notice the difference in sound there, sort of like a grinding. That's what it should sound like if it's catching the sprocket and it's tight on both ends. So once you get to that point, let me show you one more time. I'll back it off, make it loose, listen to the sound. You hear that sloppy sound, tighten it back up. So you should hear that sound. That's the sound it should be making. It should rotate nice and free. Tighten that bar nut down. And again, should make that sound. Everything should rotate smooth. Double check there, proper tension, and we're good to go. Another thing to look out for, your point of your cutting tooth should always point to the bar tip. So if you do not have that point in the right direction, your chain is on backwards. This happens more frequently than you know. People that aren't aware of their chains, they've never done this before, they're a novice. It's going to be pointing the opposite direction, but it always goes and rotates clockwise. So your tip is always pointing at the tip. So now if you take a look at the outboard clutch, this is going to be a Husqvarna top handle saw. Stihl's top handle saws are still going to have an outboard clutch, but on Husqvarna saws, all of them, including all the entry-level models, Pro Series models, are all going to have a clutch similar to this. So what you're going to have to do with these, instead of mounting the chain onto your bar first, you're going to take the chain and you're going to wrap it around the sprocket just like that. What you're going to look for is making sure that your chain is sitting on the sprocket in the right position. If your chain is not sitting on the sprocket in the right position, you can have problems with it getting hung up. So once we get that installed on there, now we're going to come back. We're going to set our bar on, push it all the way forward, and then we're going to wrap it around the tip right here and start working our way back. So just lightly seating it in just like this. And the biggest thing is making sure all your teeth are in your bar, just like that. Now we're going to put the clutch cover on and tension the chain. If you look right here, that is where your tensioner is. We're trying to get in this hole right back here. So we need to go ahead, take the tensioner and go back with it until it drops into that hole on the bar. It's going to take a little bit from the factory here. Once we get it back far enough, it'll just slide right in there, pop into place, and then we can do the chain adjustment just like that. So now everything's all the way down there. We're going to take our bar nut, tighten that down. Now you can see that we have a whole bunch of slop right there. So we're going to retension this. And that chain is going to get on there a little tighter. So you see that your chain's not aligning there. So we're going to go backwards with the chain. When you go backwards with the chain, it lines up the holes right there. Take your bar tensioner, finish tensioning the rest of the way. Now we're going to go forward. And just like that, got a little bit of slop, tighten it up just a hair more. Nice and tight there. Take the bar nut, tighten it there. Rotate it again. And we're good. Right in the middle there, nice and tight. All right, two different designs, outboard clutch, inboard clutch. You saw how I did everything. Pretty straightforward and simple on there. I prefer personally the inboard clutch, like on the Stihl saws. But Husqvarna's design outboard clutch, as long as you know how that all works, pretty straightforward and simple as well. So the tensioning on there is basically going to be the same depending on what chain you're using. That can be a little bit of a variation, but it doesn't matter if it's an onboard or an outboard clutch. Your process is going to be the same as far as getting the chain mounted on there. If stuff's not aligning with the drive link teeth on the groove on the bar, push the chain backwards, rotate it backwards. That will align everything on the sprocket where it needs to be, and then rotate it forwards towards the bar tip. Once you do that, you can see how much slop you have on there. Use your tensioner to tension the chain up, rotate again, make sure there's no more slop in there. Once you get it where you want it, go ahead and tighten your bar nut, and then double check your slop again with the scrunch, pushing it through, pull up the chain in the middle, see where you're at. After installing thousands of chains and bars on chainsaws over the years, this is the most efficient way to put the chain on. I've tried other ways. This way works foolproof 100% of the time. You always get everything right. Do not lift up on your bar tips. That's just stupid. That's not the way to do it. You're going to have either too much tension if you guys crank down your tensioner too much, or you're going to have slop once you let down. Doing it the way I showed you is going to make sure everything fits right the first time. If you guys did like the video, drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel. Subscribing to the channel is going to give you guys the first glimpse of my new content when I put it out on a daily basis. I've also got tools, tips, and tricks that I use to do repairs just like these and other equipment so I can get customer stuff fixed and right back out the door. Also, make sure you guys check out my description down below. In the description, I often list a whole bunch of tools that I use in the shop. So make sure you guys are purchasing those through my Amazon affiliate links. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day.